What I always tell people, the reason I love my job, and that's the outside sales role, progressive cavity pumps in general. It's because the TV show. I mean, I watched it a lot as a kid because once again, I was kind of a nerdy gearhead. But the show How It's Made, I feel like a lot of people can relate to that show, right? A lot of the work that I do, I get to see that on a daily basis. That's what I enjoy. It's not one industry or one application that I just really love. It's the fact that I go into all sorts of industries, whether it's a food and beverage plant where they're making Greek yogurt, or it's the ones you don't even think of. I was in a plant recently where they're making the foam padding for automobile behind the dashboards and the seats and things like that. All the little bits. That's what fascinates me. Is every day is a little bit different, and every day I get to see something that most people are never even going to think about.
Welcome to the Empowering Industry Podcast, a production from Empowering Pumps and Equipment as the voice of the pump and related equipment industries. Hey, everybody, and welcome to the Empowering Industry Podcast. I'm your host, Charli Matthews, and I am loving my industry access and going behind the scenes with everyone. It's been so much fun. So if you are, part of a cool process and you want to let me know about it, send me a message. I'd love to see it. But today we are going to do an interview here with Dylan. Will you jump on here and introduce yourself?
Yeah, of course. Howdy, guys. My name is Dylan Deatley. I am a resident of Houston, Texas, and I work for SEEPEX, a progressive cavity pump manufacturer that's based out of Enid, Ohio. So we manufacture progressive cavity pumps for industries all across the world and all sorts of different fun and exciting things that we get into on a daily basis.
Well, you definitely have a lot of industry there in Houston, but how does somebody get into the progressive cavity pump world?
I bet you could ask 10 people that question and get 10 different answers. So I'll give you how I got there, and then the audience can kind of take that kind of make their own inferences, right? So I have a degree in mechanical engineering from the University of Houston. Go Cougs! I worked for a oil and gas company as a design engineer for several years. Oil and gas is a very cyclical market, right? A lot of people in the audience are probably very familiar with it. Whenever it's good, it's great. Whenever it's not so good, it's really not great. So in 2014, 2015, the oil and gas market started to go in the wrong direction. And I was the last employee in, which meant I was going to be the first employee out. My boss came to me and said, "Hey, you know what? Things aren't looking good." So at that same company, I was able to find an internal position, and I transferred to be an application engineer for their industrial pumps group, which was another progressive cavity pump manufacturer. So although it was an oil and gas company, they had a big market with this one specific type of progressive cavity pump. And it was mostly on the industrial non-oil and gas side. So they were still hiring people. They were still, having good profits and things like that. So I joined as an application engineer. So, that was kind of my transition from design engineering to application engineering. Application engineering is kind of like a technical inside sales role. So you're working with customers, you're working with the outside sales team, and you're designing and sizing the pumps for the actual application. So whether it's a skidded system, it's a big, massive project that's being worked on by an engineering firm, or it's just one guy that needs a pump just down the street. You'll take in all their information, you size it. And that's really how I got into the PC pump world. And then from that sort of technical inside sales role, it becomes a very easy transition down the road when you get some experience, if you want to join the outside sales role. So now I'm a territory sales manager for SEEPEX, and that's my role as outside sales for SEEPEX, covering my 4-state region out of Houston.
Okay, so tell us why you chose engineering.
That's a good question. You know what? When I was in high school, I had not very high aspirations to go to college. I'm a gearhead. I love cars. I've always worked on cars my entire life. When I was a little kid, working with my father in the garage, I wanted to go to a trade school, something like a Wyotech or something of that nature, and become a master certified technician. I wanted to be a mechanic. I wanted to work on cars my entire life, whether that was owning my own shop one day or just working on car, whatever it was. I wanted it to be car related. And my mother, who, to this day, I can thank for my success. She convinced me. She says, you know what? If you want to work on cars, that's great. And you can do that. But why don't you go to school and get a business degree, get any sort of degree, and then you can go to trade school and you can still work on cars, but you'll have a degree to fall back on. If you want to open up your own shop, you can do that down the road. But don't limit yourself by not doing it. So to her credit, I agreed. I went to college. I started at a community college down here in Houston. And come to find out, I realized I was pretty good at math. I kept taking math classes. I kept accelerating at them. So I took more math than I needed for a business degree because I enjoyed it. I was doing really well in it. And by the time I was ready to transfer to a 4-year school, talking with counselors, talking with my family, counselor said, hey, if you're good at math, you like cars, you like things like that. What if you design things like that? You know what I mean? So they encouraged me to look into engineering. I met with some of the advisors at the University of Houston, and I decided that I should give it a shot. And I was okay at it, and I got a degree, and it's been good ever since.
I love that story. And I think so many people can resonate with that. I mean, I know our families do help direct us, but also the experience. You go in there not quite knowing, what it's going to turn into, really at school or in the business world, right?
Yeah,
absolutely.
absolutely.
Okay, so fast forward, you're working on progressive cavity pumps,
Mm-hmm.
and people know SEEPEX for that, right? A lot in the
Correct, yeah.
water, wastewater space, I know, but there's so many more applications to it. What is kind of the coolest application or something that you're really interested in?
Man, there's so many cool ones. What I always tell people, the reason I love my job, and that's the outside sales role, progressive cavity pumps in general. It's because the TV show. I mean, I watched it a lot as a kid because once again, I was kind of a nerdy gearhead. But the show How It's Made, I feel like a
Yes,
lot of
we
people
love
can
it
relate
here.
to that
Yes.
show, right? A lot of the work that I do, I get to see that on a daily basis. That's what I enjoy. It's not one industry or one application that I just really love. It's the fact that I go into all sorts of industries, whether it's a food and beverage plant where they're making Greek yogurt, or it's the ones you don't even think of. I was in a plant recently where they're making the foam padding for automobile behind the dashboards and the seats and things like that. All the little pieces of foam. That's all they make is foam. So you're in all these different industries all across the region, all across the board, and you're seeing these things be made from just individual raw materials to a cup of Greek yogurt with fruit syrup on top, or from all these random ingredients turned into a giant roll of foam that's the size of like 3 school buses. That's what fascinates me. Is every day is a little bit different, and every day I get to see something that most people are never even going to think about. And that's the crux of it, right? Is we interact with these things on a daily basis all the time. We're touching different things, whether it's you have the pen in your hand or the car that you're driving or whatever the case may be, and you never have to, but you never stop and just think, how did it get here? You know what I mean? Like this one thing's made up of 15 different items or 16 different pieces of ingredients or raw materials. And seeing that come together in different factories across the U.S. is really, I think, what fascinates me the most. That's what I like the most about the industry that I'm in and the pump technology that I work with. And with PC pumps, the industries are so broad. As you mentioned, water, wastewater, it's huge. That's really progressive cavity pumps, I always say it's their bread and butter. That's where PC Pump's largest industry really is the municipal wastewater industry. But besides that, it's everything. I mean, there isn't an industry in the world that couldn't have the need for some SEEPEX progressive cavity pump, and that's what's cool is I get to see all of that.
It is so cool. And, I think I know there's not an industry that doesn't touch, that the pump industry doesn't touch. And
Yeah.
so any of these applications we were talking about, any, thing vital to life and beyond, just for fun, some of these things that you're talking about, I'm just thinking about, I always use the Greek yogurt example
Yeah.
because I think
Yeah.
it's just so cool. How do those strawberries get in there? But those type of things, you are showing the passion of what working in this industry is and going to these different plants and manufacturing and processing plants. It opens your eyes. It excites you to be at work, to be able to do this and to see the people behind the scenes that make these things happen is also
Oh
pretty
yeah.
cool. So I guess as you go out and you're seeing this, what keeps you motivated other than the excitement of industry? Is there anything else, I guess, that keeps you going, moving you forward?
For me, it's being a solution provider. That's what drives me the most. I love walking into. It doesn't matter what the style of plant is, what the industry is. I love getting in front of the maintenance manager or the maintenance team at that facility and asking them. A progressive cavity pump is a positive displacement style of pump, right? So, a lot of other PB pumps, PC pumps could, in fact, do that same application. So I love walking in and sitting down with someone and asking, do you have any positive displacement pumps across your plant at all? And they're always going to say yes. Every plant has some sort of positive displacement pump, right? And I asked them, I said, okay, of those, do you have any ones that you consider your problem children? They're the bad actors. They're the ones that are always needing to be repaired. They're always failing prematurely, anything of that nature. And if they say no, I say, hey, you know what? If you don't have a problem, I'm not trying to sell you a solution to a problem you don't have. But if they say yes, which more often than not they do, then it's okay. Let's start there. I don't need to replace all your pumps with my pump. I want to provide you a solution because I find that if you can bring that value added to their life, to their plant, and solve problems for them, they're going to take you more seriously. They're going to respect you more, and it's going to just lend credit to your credibility as a salesperson. Correct? So that's what I do. I go in there and I look for the bad actors, and we'll just sit down and we'll look at that and we'll say, okay, here's the application. Maybe we have to go out to the plant and walk it down to see how it's piped out and see what the layout is. Here's the viscosities and the flows that we need, and here's the time constraint that we have and the temperatures involved. And we'll go through and we'll try and figure out, okay, why is this not working for the pump you currently have? And would a SEEPEX progressive cavity pump solve those problems? And that's the approach I take, and that's what really keeps me motivated is going out there and trying to be that solution provider to customers, to end users. Because I don't know, it's satisfying. It gives you that sense of satisfaction whenever you can solve a problem, and you see it from this pump technology that was not working to getting them to commit to the SEEPEX solution, getting it installed, and then following up on it and seeing that it's working for them. And that's really what keeps me motivated.
Yeah, that's the engineer in you, that problem solver, and being able to see it as a solution. I love that. And I can't let you go. I'm so interested in you. I just love the personality. And of course, I think it's the stories that you're telling me about walking through the plant. Just love that. We have common interests there. But what is your favorite book? We'll wrap up
Oh
there.
man, that's a tough one. I like all sorts of books. I think the series that I read the most recently that I think is becoming very popular, and the final book, the final installation is coming later this year. I think is the Red Rising series.
Okay.
It's a very interesting book, and I've read some of the books. I've listened to some of the audiobooks, but it's like I think there's 7 books now, and the 8th book is coming out. So it's a long one. It's one, each book is quite long, and you can really get into it. It's science fiction. And once again, I always tell people I'm a little bit of a nerd, so I really love that sort of stuff. And so I would say Red Rising is my favorite book series right now.
What
But
about
I like all books. I literally I love to read. I find myself reading a lot of. I love true crime stuff. So like I'm a big podcast person. I listen to. And most of the podcasts I listen to are true crime related because I think we all have that little sense of morbid curiosity sometimes. So I
well, it's
like
also
to.
you're solving the crime,
Yeah,
like you're
exactly,
guessing, right, of
exactly.
what's going to happen and all of
So
that.
I love those types of books where it's that sort of murder mystery or this crime happened and who done it, like
Yeah,
I love that sort of stuff. So
yeah.
those sort of books always attract me.
What about music? What do you listen to while you're working?
I always tell people I have a very eclectic music taste. If you go on my Spotify app and you go to my liked playlist where it's just the songs that I've thumbs up over the years, you might get some, classic rock like Tom Petty, and then it might go to some like really heavy screaming metal, and then we might go back to Kelly Clarkson on the third song. So
Yeah.
I listen to just about anything. I'm from Houston, so I love, Houston rap and the chopped and screwed rap scene. I love country music. I live in Texas, so it's almost required when you live in Texas to listen to country music. And I like rock and roll and classic rock and everything. Yeah, I'm an open book. I listen to pretty much just about anything.
Awesome, awesome. Okay, little harder question. What advice? Okay, well, let's start with what is the best advice you've ever received?
Um, be comfortable in silence. So to expand on that, and this is really important for me because as you've probably realized in the last 15 minutes, I could talk for literal days. Okay. So with that, I don't oftentimes like when there's silence. So when there's silence, I will fill that silence, right? So what I've learned, especially in sales, whenever you're in front of customers, especially if it's a more challenging account, ask the right questions, but then let them answer. And if they give you an answer and they stop talking, you don't have to fill that silence right away. Or if they ask you a question and you answer their question, you don't have to be the first one to talk. Because a lot of people don't like silence and they're going to fill it. They may continue talking. They may give you some information that they weren't expecting to give you or you weren't expecting to receive. So I don't do a good job of practicing it all the time, as you can tell. But that is really good advice that I try and remember when I'm in front of customers.
Well, Dylan, this would be a boring interview if you weren't talking. So I'm glad that you
Yes.
are. I agree with that. I'm also a big talker, and the power of the pause is how we
Yeah.
talk about it with me and my coach. It's amazing. Just
Yeah.
a couple seconds difference
Yeah.
is big. What about kind of thinking of the pump industry? And if you were going to give advice to somebody coming into our industry, what would you tell them?
I think you just have to be. I think you have to be open-minded and you have to be fluid. No pun intended, right? You have to be fluid whenever you're dealing with anything in the pump industry. It's every situation you're in is going to be a little bit different. Every customer you work with, they're going to have a little bit different attitude, whether positive or negative. Every problem you go to solve is not going to have the same solution. So you have to be very fluid whenever you're out there, especially if you're an outside salesperson. You're doing a lot of traveling. You're moving from this city this week to that state the next week, and you're always all over the place. People are going to cancel on you the day of, right? You're going to be driving to a plant, and they're going to call you and say, "Oh, something happened. We're not going to be able to meet today." So you have to kind of pull an audible and go somewhere else, or try and scramble for another appointment. But you have to be fluid. So I would say someone getting into the pump industry, especially someone getting into the sales side, that's the biggest piece of advice is you have to, it sounds so cliche, but you have to expect the unexpected because things are going to happen. So you just have to keep in your mind, you've got to stay fluid. You've got to kind of just roll with the punches and go with the flow. And it'll work out, but it's just, you're always going to get to the solution in a different way.
Well, Dylan, it's really wonderful to get to know you. And it is
Likewise.
always welcome in our industry, an engineer that can then go be in front of the customer. So I know that's a gem there that they've got with you. And so if you I'll give you the last word if you want to let people know how to get in touch with you or anything else that you want to add.
Yeah, no, I mean, like I said, I appreciate you giving me the time to come on here and talk. I really enjoyed this. I sell progressive cavity pumps, right? So SEEPEX.com. If you want to learn more about PC pumps, please go and check out the website. Progressive cavity pumps are a very niche item. They're not, you don't learn about them in school. They're usually used on the really weird and wonky applications, which is probably why I like them so much. And a lot of people, you could ask a room of 20 people I'm giving a presentation to, who's heard of PC pumps? And of those 20 people, maybe one person raises their hand. So I get to teach people on a daily basis. So if you've never heard of PC pumps before, Google progressive cavity pump, go to seepex.com, poke around. We have a lot of cool videos and information on there, and it's a really cool technology. And I think that the audience would really enjoy kind of seeing it in action and kind of getting a better idea of what it looks like.
That's wonderful. So y'all heard him. Go ahead, share this episode. Google progressive cavity pumps, positive displacement pumps if you really want to get exciting. But you know what I want y'all to do is think about something interesting. If you've seen a cool application, send it my way. I want to hear about it. And y'all connect with Dylan. I look forward to hearing somebody that has listened to this podcast get in touch with him next time I talk to him. So until next time, be empowering. Thanks, Dylan.